Welcome to this tutorial. This tutorial, if you don't know what is an Earth system model and you want to use one for your research or for any management or engineering purpose, then hopefully this tutorial will take you like step by step on how to use an Earth system model. So the outline of this tutorial, it will be like 5 parts. Like the first part, this is like a general introduction. I will introduce like what is an Earth system model and some common terminology in case you are not familiar with them. So basically this will be like a short introduction on Earth system modeling. And then in the second lesson, I will introduce the case studies that we will be using in the rest of the tutorial for like our example, for practical example. This case study is based on like sea surface height, which is one of the outputs of an Earth surface model, but that really doesn't matter. Like if you are interested in other outputs like precipitation, for example, like temperature, whatever output you are interested in, like the procedure would be like the same. So the second part of the tutorial, like you will learn how to search for data, like the output of the Earth system model. So in this tutorial, you're not gonna learn how to run an Earth system model, because running an Earth system model, that could be like very computationally expensive and could be time consuming. So already like the modeling group who work with develop these model, they have run them for you, and the data is already available for you for hundreds of Earth system simulation, as I will be presenting. So you will learn how to search for this data, the available data, these available outputs of these models, and these outputs are standard, as we will learn, and how to download this data with Python and with Linux. So in this tutorial, I will be showing maybe how to do the same thing with like a different way. And you can choose whichever like sounds more easy and would make more sense for the tasks that you want to do. In the third part of the tutorial, I will show you how to handle a netcdf file. So these outputs of an Earth system model, their extension, it would be like .nc, that's like a netcdf file. So I will like introduce like what is a netcdf file and how to handle netcdf file with Python and MATLAB. So whichever you are more familiar with, like you will have pulse method, and then with Bash and netcdf operator. So for some tasks, simple tasks, you can use Python and MATLAB to handle netcdf file, but for some advanced tasks, you might need like specialized toolbox, such as like the netcdf operator, for example, which you would need to Linux, and I will show you like how to use these tool and how to like compile it on your computer, on your Linux system, and I will show you like different option for like, in case you're not familiar with Linux, I will take you through it. The fourth part of the tutorial, I will show you like the same thing. Like generally, like these Earth system models, there are like tens of working groups who are developing these model, and generally don't want to just use one model. And each model has many realizations, so they keep running the model for different realizations. So in this part, you will learn like how to handle like data of multiple models, not just one model, which like I will be more or less the same as in part 3, but it will be like more advanced, and I will show some tips on how to handle like multiple models. And then in part 5, like after we search for our data, we download our data, and we handle our data, like handling our data. But for example, like you need to, like you will download this file, it will be for the whole earth, but you're not necessarily interested in the whole earth, you are just interested in an area. So you'll learn how to clip your data for this area and for the time frames that you're interested in, and how to append this data together like in one file, which can be easier to handle. And then once we have like this file with the data for the regions that we need and the time periods that we need, then I will show you like how to analyze this data. In that case, it will be like the sea surface height data to solve the environmental or management or engineering problems that you are interested in. Okay, so this is the first lesson. In this first lesson, I'll be like presenting like these topics. So first I will show you like what's an Earth system model. Then I will, in case you don't know what is like a CMIP coupled model intercomparison project, and then what's CMIP6, which is like what's currently happening. And then I will introduce the CMIP6 common experiment and like some of the CMIP6 endorsed projects. Then I will talk about CMIP model projections to get you familiar with new scenarios that have been developed for CMIP6, and I will talk about next generation development of Earth system models, so you will know what will be coming next. And then generally, like in this tutorial at the end, I will be presenting some links for topics that I covered in the presentation, in case you want to read and learn more about that topic. Okay, so what is an Earth system model? Like to understand like what's an Earth system model, we need to know like what's the difference between like a climate model or a circulation model, like a general circulation model, an ocean circulation model, and an Earth system model. So basically, an Earth system model, it attempts to close the carbon cycle by accounting for like multiple Earth cycle, like the hydrosphere, the geosphere, the atmosphere, and the biosphere. So it has more processes and than like just a climate model as shown like in this diagram. So for example, you can have like an ocean ecology and biochemistry. You can have like plant ecology and land use, that's on the land. And you can have like the land physics and hydrology. It can like interact, like the land biogeochemistry could interact with the ocean biogeochemistry, and or at least this is under development in many of the Earth system models now, and how these like interact with the atmosphere. So you have like coupled like physical and biogeochemical models that capture like the main Earth cycles, including human activities, which will be like which are coming, and as I will talk about like in the next generation development, and they are happening now, like land use, for example, and how to account for different land use, and like energy consumption, for example, different modes of energy consumption. Earth system model, like they generally or traditionally up to like CMIP5, they were like just a coarse model. Like so, you have like, for example, so this example here shows like model was like a uniform grid, like 1 degree by 1 degree. That's like 100 kilometer by 100 kilometer. But now with CMIP6, as I will be show later, This is not the case anymore. Now we started to have like some variable resolution model. This variable resolution model, for example, you can refine at certain areas that you are interested in. Like here, for example, you find some refinement with so you have a global grid, and like figure B, you have a global grid of 1 degree, but on like over North America, you have a 2.5 degree refinement over the USA. Or you could have like this 2.5 degree refinement on all the Earth, like in all the grid. And that is like one of the major advances of CMIP6, as I will be showing. What is CMIP? So CMIP, this is like called Couple Model Intercomparison Project. It's a project of the World Climate Research Program that define and coordinate climate model experiment involving multiple international modeling team worldwide. So you have like different modeling teams who are developing these climate or Earth system models. This CMIP, it's a project that coordinates this modeling activity according to like a standardized procedure and protocol to standardize the model output so that they can be compared. So the objective is to understand like the past, the present, and future climate change and variability in a multi-model framework to assess the CMIP simulation as part of the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change IPCC report. So, for example, the 2013 IPCC fifth assessment report that featured the model from CMIP5, for example. The upcoming 2021, the sixth assessment report of IPCC that will feature the CMIP6 models. And CMIP, like one of the really main, in addition to climate, like one of the main purpose of like CMIP in general is to advance the scientific understanding of the Earth system. So these models can have other uses other than like studying climate, as I will be showing in this tutorial. So for example, we will show like how to use like, for example, this model to manage an environmental problem at a regional scale. This is a case study that I will present in like the next lesson in our case study. What is CMIP6? So CMIP6 simulation. So CMIP6 is they started the simulation in like 2017 to 2020 as a deadline. These are from more than 100 model and more than 50 participating model groups. In CMIP6, there are new generation of advanced Earth system model with high resolution and unprecedented model fidelity with hundreds of historical simulation and future predictions. And these historical simulation and future prediction, like these, so here this is like a table shows some example of modeling group, and you see from like many countries like Germany, China, Canada, India, Italy, France, South Africa, Australia, US, Europe, Brazil, Japan, UK, Norway, Taiwan, Korea, Republic of Korea. So these different model groups, they already run the model that they developed, the Earth system or the climate model that they developed, and the simulation results, like the output of the simulation, is already available. And like in like the third video, I will show you how to search for this output and download them. So they are available to use. So what are the CMIP6 common experiments? So to qualify, like to join the CMIP, to qualify to like the entry card for the CMIP is that you have to perform some of this like standard like experiment, like this atmospheric MIP simulation, like a pre-industrial control simulation, and 1% per year CO2 increase and abrupt CO2 run. So these are like the basics, like experiment to join like the CMIP, like any of the CMIP phases, and this is, they call this like the DEC. So DEC means diagnosis, evaluation, and characterization of climate. Climate, this is like a German word which means climate. So diagnosis, evaluation, and characterization of climate. And to enter the CMIP6, like to be one of the endorsed model group or project, you have to do the historical simulation using the CMIP6 forcing. So this historical simulation, it is from 1850 to 2014, January 1850 to December 2014. And that is the one that would be like generally used for application for like environmental management and for like engineering purposes, because this is like a historical simulation, not like a control or like some simulation with no, like that doesn't have like the historical forcing. And this protocol of this experiment, this again, like these are a standard experiment with a standard protocol, standard output that are defined, for example, in this paper that was published in Geoscientific Model Development by Eyring, who is the chair of the CMIP6 panel. Okay, and then this is like, if you check like this articles, this is like special issue would be about like the CMIP6. So the CMIP6 and this different like experiment endorse the project. So here, this is like an overview of the CMIP6. These are like the endorsed project line. Like you see, lot of endorsed projects are coming and like are going that are like new to CMIP6, like especially like the one that is really be that expanded the use and application of this model is that this regional phenomenon is a high resolution MIP, which I will call about. And in this high resolution MIP, this is where the resolution, the horizontal resolution of this model started to increase just from like 1 degree by 1 degree to like variable resolution, and that could be extend the use of this model to use them to study like regional phenomena and for management and engineering purpose on like regional scale. Uh, Other than like climate science, like for general like user, the other useful like project like in CMIP6, for example, would be like the scenario MIP. I will talk about this. This is like for future projection, the land use MIP. So these are like here, like you see the land use MIP, here the scenario MIP, and the high resolution MIP. So, and if you want to like read more about like, see, I highlighted like these three projects here, and you can go to this link and you can read more about like this endorsed project. So this endorsed project, these are like extra, like, so here, like here, you see here, this is CMIP historical simulation. This is just the entry card to the CMIP6, where you run this historical simulation from 1850 to 2014 with the standard resolution, not with this high resolution. So, or like any like scenario map or land use map, is just like the entry card is basically just to do this CMIP6 historical simulations. That's the basic. And like these are like extra projects that are like endorsed by the CMIP6 project. Okay, so this is like, I see this as one of the major breakthrough of like the CMIP6 is that like this high resolution MIP. So the high resolution model intercomparison project, which is called like HighResMIP, this applies for the first time to coordinate multimodal approach to the systematic investigation of the impact of horizontal resolution. Again, in the same special issues that I talked about, this article, it presents the common protocol of the high resolution run that simulate more processes in detail and on a smaller scale. Like, so you can have like some of these model has a nominal resolution of like 10 kilometer and like 25 kilometer in the ocean, for example, or like the land. So this like high fidelity model with enhanced like horizontal resolution, this result in change like in large scale aspect of circulation, not like so on large scale aspect of circulation you see some improvement like North Atlantic current, for example, and improvement on a small scale processes. So you can, as I will show like next in the next slide, like how, for example, loop current in the Gulf of Mexico with this high resolution map, you can like resolve like these eddies and you can simulate loop current, while like the regular, like the previous standard resolution mesh like coarse grid, you cannot like resolve like these loop current, for example, and this can improve the simulation on like small scale phenomena such as like, so you can now like this thing you can improve like the simulation of like tropical cyclones, regional sea level rise, and so on, precipitation. Okay, so this, yeah, here, this is like an example of like the high like resolution map with respect to the, this is Atlantic Ocean, and mainly how can you simulate the North Atlantic current. So this is like the reference and like the low resolution grid, which is generally from 0.7 to 0.1. Then this is generally like, this is a CMIP type of model. This is the prototype for the CMIP6 type of model, like those medium resolutions. This is for the high resolution, like a medium resolution. So this is, and then like this is a high resolution for the high resolution MIP, and you can have even like a smaller, like a 0.1 degree. This is for the AWICM, like this is like one of the German model, and in this case studies that I'll presenting, we'll be using about like 50 models. This would be like one of them, and we will be using like, this would be like, I think this one, we'll be using 5 simulation of this one, and we'll be using one of the simulation of this one. So we have like 6 ensemble member from this AWI model. And you see here, for example, like how you can improve, but this is a variable resolution. So you see here, this is a resolution like it could range from 150 to 5. So near the coast here, for example, this is like Florida, Gulf of Mexico. So you see near the coast, you have a very fine resolution, for example. So it's a variable resolution. Okay. The model projection, like in CMIP6, there are more control, like you have more like degree or like more freedom. So this like it has like something called like the shared socioeconomic pathway. So these are socioeconomic scenario used to drive emission scenario without mitigation, like that would be like the baseline scenario, and with mitigation, like with some climate policy. So here, like again, somehow similar to CMIP4, where you have like this socioeconomic pathways, like although it's different, but it's like the same idea, and somehow similar to CMIP5, where you have like forcing levels. So here, like I'm not gonna go in details, like you can go to the manuscript in global environmental change, and like to read more about like this third socioeconomic pathway. But like you have like 5 of them, and with this is like the baseline for each one of them, and here this is like you can think like as a mitigation effort, and to reach like a certain like forcing level. So in comparison, like if we want to compare this, for example, to CMIP 5, like these RCPs, like the representative concentration pathway in the greenhouse gas concentration trajectory in like the CMIP 5. So for example, the SSP 1 2.6, that would be equivalent to the RCP 2.6 in like CMIP 5, for example. The SSP 8.5, for example, that would be equivalent to the RCP 8.5 in CMIP, like for comparison. But like you have all these ones in between, which gives like more freedom and more analysis. Okay, so this is just so we'll be talking also like when we get to like how to search for data and how to download data, we will see like you will see this SSP, and you will like get to know it in more details. Okay, so next generation development, these models are developing very fast, and they will be widely used like in the near future. So for example, like this is one of the new project for CMIP and it's one of the endorsed project for CMIP6 is called like the E3SM of the Department of Energy in the USA. And like in their next generation development, like I just showed like 2 example, like they, for example, they are introducing the interaction between natural and human systems. So for example, coupling the land model component. So they have actually a land model, they are modeling, like they are coupling now, it's still in progress, land biogeochemistry with the ocean biogeochemistry, and how like the discharge and biogeochemistry of the river, for example, to the ocean and the land. So they are coupling this to the ocean, and in addition they will consider like coupling land model component. So it's called ELMS, this is a land model component, with a crop model, and Mozart, this is a river model, to better represent the impact of crop management, for example, and water management. Because most of these earth system model at the current stage, they mainly simulate like with respect to like water management and crop management, they just present natural phenomena, not like human activity. So they like this human activity will be like included, like crop management and water management on the stream flow, stream temperature, floodplain, in inundation, and river biogeochemistry, for example. So this is like one example of the next generation development. Another example, like increase the model fidelity. So for example, the E3SM will account for like storm surge that are fast time scale and episodic coastal ocean processes that modify inundation via forcing by like localized pressure and wind to simulate like regional sea level rise and coastal inundation. So these are just like few examples like of interest for like this next generation developments that are coming. Yeah, I think that's the end of the presentation. So here are like some of the useful link. Like here, if you want to read about the CMIP endorsed project, this is a special issue that about like a high resolution MIP. If you want to know more about high resolution MIP, this is a special issue about like the CMIP6 project. Here, this is this link for the E3SM. If you want to know about next generation development of like an E3SM project, for example, this is just one example. Like they have a good website, like you can go and like browse through it. It has a lot of useful information. This presentation also is like useful, an overview of the couple, like of CMIP experiment design and organization. This also like useful presentation, like if you want to know more detail about like the CMIP project. So I think that's it for this presentation. And the next one, it will be, I'll introduce the case studies that we will be using in this tutorial. Okay, so thank you very much.